In 2021, 1 out of every 131 songs streamed on Spotify globally was a Drake track. Not on a Drake playlist, not on a hip-hop radio station. Across the entire platform, every country, every user, every genre, one song in 131 was his. He has crossed 100 billion lifetime streams on Spotify. He is the most streamed male artist in the platform's recorded history. And his record label collects approximately 85 cents of every dollar that music generates before Drake sees anything. So here is what this video answers. If Spotify pays $4 million for every billion streams and the label keeps 85% of that, what does the most played rapper in Spotify history actually walk away with? The answer is smaller than you think, and the system that produces it was not an accident. Drake was the first artist in Spotify history to reach 30 billion total streams back in April of 2020, then 40 billion in August 2021, then 50 billion in September 2022. By December of 2023, his Spotify catalog had crossed 70 billion plays. As of 2025, he sits past 100 billion lifetime lead streams and has been the most streamed rapper on the platform for 8 consecutive years running. Every single one of those streams generated a royalty payment the moment it was logged on Spotify's servers. And now, watch what happens to those payments on the way to the artist. Spotify does not pay a fixed rate per stream. Every month, the platform pools all of its revenue from premium subscription fees and advertising income on the free tier into a single royalty fund. Spotify then takes approximately 30% of that fund for its own operating costs. The remaining 70% gets distributed to rights holders based on their proportional share of total platform streams. This arrangement is called the Pro-Rata model. If Drake accounts for 1% of all Spotify streams globally in a given month, he receives 1% of the total royalty pool. The bigger your share of total streams, the bigger your share of the money. In practice, this calculation produces between $3 and $5 for every 1,000 streams, which means 1 billion streams generates between $3 million and $5 million in gross royalties. Spotify's own marketing team confirmed this publicly in February 2025, stating on the record that 1 billion streams on the platform pays between $3 and $5 million to rights holders. $4 million is the midpoint and the figure you see on the thumbnail for this video. Now watch what happens to that $4 million. In December of 2023, Snoop Dogg appeared on the Business Untitled podcast filmed in Los Angeles and revealed that his publisher had forwarded him a Spotify royalty statement after one of his tracks crossed 1 billion streams. He asked his publisher to explain the payment in actual dollars. The number, he said publicly, was not even $45,000. Spotify's team pushed back and confirmed that 1 billion streams pays millions of dollars to rights holders, which is accurate. Snoop's figure referred specifically to his publishing royalties, a smaller slice of the total payout that goes to songwriters rather than to the owner of the master recording. Both numbers exist inside the same system simultaneously. Spotify sends millions. Artists, in many situations, see a fraction. The gap between those two realities is what the payment chain produces. The moment a song streams on Spotify, money moves through a chain of entities inside the music industry. Spotify sends the royalty payment to a music distributor. If a major record label is involved, the label receives the bulk of that payment before the artist is considered. The label then pays the recording artist their contracted royalty rate from what remains. The artist's management team collects their commission from the artist's share. Whatever survives that sequence is what the recording artist actually receives in their account. Under a standard major label recording contract, the artist receives somewhere between 15 and 20% of the label's streaming revenue. This is not speculation. It is the established industry standard documented by music royalty analysts and confirmed by the contract terms made public in numerous music industry legal disputes over the past decade. Let's run those numbers on $4 million. The label takes its share first. The label retains approximately 85% of the recording royalties. The recording artist receives 15% of what remains after the label takes its portion. $4 million in gross royalties. The label keeps $3.4 million. The recording artist receives around $600,000 before their manager takes 20% and before income tax is applied. $600,000. From 1 billion plays of your music, the label earns more than 5 times what the artist earns from the exact same streams. And that is the scenario where the artist is not in recoupment. When a major record label signs a new artist, the label advances money for recording costs in professional studios, marketing campaigns, and music video productions. Every cent of that advance must be repaid from the artist's royalty share before the artist receives a single dollar of net income. An artist can accumulate hundreds of millions of streams and technically receive no net payment because the unrecouped balance keeps being subtracted from every quarterly statement. This is not buried in footnotes. It is a core feature of standard recording contracts and has been standard practice since the era of vinyl records. If you are finding this useful, subscribing to this channel takes 2 seconds and means you do not miss a breakdown when we follow the money through an industry that prefers you did not look too closely. Subscribe and then keep watching, because the per-stream royalty chain is only the first layer of what the labels built. What they negotiated before Spotify signed a single subscriber changes the picture completely. Stockholm, 2008. Spotify was a startup with a catalog problem. Without the music libraries of Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Music Group, the platform had nothing worth streaming. The 3 major labels held all the cards. As a condition of their licensing agreements with Spotify, the major labels each received equity stakes in the company itself. Universal received approximately 5 to 7% of Spotify's shares. Sony received 5.7%. Warner received around 4%. Combined, the 3 largest record companies in the world held roughly 15 to 18% of Spotify before the platform had signed a single paying subscriber. The same companies collecting royalty payments from Spotify also owned a significant portion of Spotify. When Spotify listed on the New York Stock Exchange in April 2018, Sony Music sold part of its equity stake for $750 million. Universal and Warner collected similarly large sums from their own Spotify shareholdings across subsequent years. On top of the per-stream royalties and the equity profits, the major labels also secured licensing agreements that award them approximately 50 to 52% of Spotify's total revenues before the royalty pool is even calculated. That share comes off the top of everything Spotify earns, before any stream is counted, and before any artist sees a statement. The labels collect from Spotify in 3 separate channels simultaneously. They take a percentage of Spotify's total revenues from their licensing agreements. They collect per-stream royalties from the royalty pool that is then distributed, and they held equity stakes in Spotify that appreciated as the platform grew and went public. The labels designed the royalty structure before streaming existed, secured ownership of the platform they were licensing to, and positioned themselves to benefit from every additional stream and every dollar of Spotify growth from multiple angles at once. There is an alternative model called user-centric payment distribution, where each subscriber's monthly fee would be allocated only to the artist that subscriber actually listened to that month. Research in the European music industry found this would shift between 1 and 5% of total royalties toward independent and niche artists. Deezer in France began testing it. Spotify studied it and declined to implement it. The 3 companies with equity stakes in Spotify and the largest shares of its revenues are also the companies whose catalogs dominate the stream counts that the Pro-Rata model rewards. Drake's individual situation improved significantly in 2022. After his obligations to the Young Money Cash Money structure ended, Drake negotiated a new deal with Universal Music Group, reportedly worth approximately $400 million in total. Variety reported the arrangement included improved royalty terms and greater control over his master recordings. Industry analysts estimate he now earns in the range of $30 to $40 million annually from streaming royalties across all platforms. But his It's All a Blur tour across North America in 2023 and 2024 grossed $320 million across 80 dates, the highest grossing hip-hop tour in the recorded history of the music business. His single performance at the O2 Arena in London in April 2019 generated $13.5 million in one evening. His commercial partnership with Stake.com is reported to pay approximately $100 million per year. Streaming contributes to Drake's net worth. But next to a world tour that generated 10 times his annual streaming income in less than a year, streaming is the residual income, not the business model. The labels and the platform they helped build were designed so that it would work out exactly that way. The label keeping 85% is Drake's situation, and he holds more negotiating leverage than almost any recording artist in history. For everyone below that level, the terms are typically worse. The 100,000th most streamed artist on Spotify received approximately $7,300 from the platform across a full calendar year. Every stream, every country, every playlist, their entire catalog. Taylor Swift pulled her music from Spotify in November 2014, stating publicly she was unwilling to contribute her life's work to a system that did not fairly compensate the people who created it. Pharrell Williams disclosed he received $2,700 from 43 million streams of Happy on Pandora. Kevin Kadish, who co-wrote All About That Bass with Meghan Trainor, reported receiving $5,679 from 178 million streams. Globally recognized names, platinum certified recordings. The streaming economy did solve the piracy crisis that gutted the music industry's revenues after 1999. But the system it built returned money primarily to the labels, publishers, and platforms, not to the musicians whose catalogs made streaming worth paying for in the first place. Drake will be fine. He renegotiated from a position almost no artist ever reaches, built a touring business that has grossed over $500 million, and diversified into OVO Sound, OVO Clothing, real estate, and endorsement partnerships that dwarf his streaming income. But the infrastructure he operates within, the one where a major label retains 85 cents of every streaming dollar before the artist sees anything, is the same infrastructure every recording artist signs into when they accept an advance from Universal, Sony, or Warner. The next time a song crosses 1 billion streams and the music press celebrates it like the artist just collected a windfall, you now know the transaction. $4 million enters the system. The label keeps $3.4 million. The person whose voice is coming out of your speakers banks a fraction of what remains after management and tax are done with it. The labels designed every line of that arrangement, and Spotify, the platform that became the center of the modern music industry, was built on agreements that guaranteed they would keep designing it.